Hey, First Christian Church. My name is Nick Mayberry, and I am the Community Missions Director. And as we're moving through these 40 days of prayer and fasting as Easter approaches, today we're going to discuss almsgiving. And you caught me. It's best I just confess right now that, I grew up in the church, and it wasn't really until seminary that I had an understanding of what it means to give alms. And in fact, even to this day, when I hear the phrase alms to the poor, the first thing that comes to mind is Robin Hood. You know, that scene from Robin Hood, the old Disney cartoon with the fox, where he's walking around with the mug and he's calling out alms for the poor. That's the first thing I think of. And so, I don't know, maybe you're like me. This is a very traditional word, almsgiving. It's kind of old-fashioned, and we don't really use it too much anymore. But simply put, it really just means that we're giving to those in need. And it's really just that we're giving financially, or we're giving resources or services to a neighbor that is in need. And in this context, in the church, maybe one of the best ways to consider is almsgiving is the external representation of Christian love. It's the external extension of what Christ has done for us. And I'm going to push that even a step further and saying that almsgiving is through Christian love giving hands and feet to the heart of God. And so, how does almsgiving fit into this 40 days of prayer and fasting and into Easter? And I can think of two ways. And the first is if we consider Jesus's temptation in the wilderness. His final temptation leads to Jesus denying what the world has for him so that he may focus on the call that God has for him. And then the second way is at the cross. And really that at the cross we see this picture that the creator of all, the universe, and the creator sustainer of life is laying down his life so that we may be made holy. And then these two pictures are modeled examples of how we should live, that we should deny what the world offers as we take up what God has for us, that we should dismiss earthly temporal comfort as we share what we have with others in need. And in doing this, there's this shift from a very intrapersonal spiritual discipline of prayer and fasting to a very communal discipline of sharing resources with others. And in fact, through almsgiving, these disciplines of prayer and fasting are given depth. That in knowing your neighbor, you know ways in which you may pray for others. In knowing your neighbor, you are given stories of what it looks like to be without. That as you deny yourself in fasting, that you're giving an example of what it looks like to be in need and to be without. So really through almsgiving, we're removing barriers between us and our neighbor. And these aren't necessarily even just physical barriers through the way that resources are distributed that, one may have while the other doesn't. But this is removing barriers through relationship. That as one gives to the neighbor in need, relationship is built. And we begin to know their story and know them. And through that experience, we're able to see them through the eyes of God. And really in that, in giving alms in this way, we are able to see the heart of God, which then allows us to see the heart of our neighbor. So similarly to prayer and fasting, almsgiving isn't limited to these 40 days. And in fact, all three of these spiritual disciplines should be a part of everyday Christian living. And in fact, if we go back to the word alms and really where it comes from, the idea closely relates to the Hebrew word tzedakah, which is translated as righteousness. It is believed that giving to the poor helps reestablish the right order of things. It reestablishes the way that creation was intended to be and encourages justice. Hebrew law ensured that the gleaning from the harvest should be left for the poor in the field of the vineyard. This comes from Leviticus 19, 9 through 10. And in Proverbs, we read that whoever is kind to the needy honors God, and whoever refuses to give alms to the poor brings retribution. And that's Proverbs 14:31 and 21:13. And ultimately, this work is brought to completion on the cross. That creation is redeemed at the cross. Crooked paths are made straight. Justice is brought through the cross. Grace is brought through the cross. And so as we participate in what God has called us to, in denying the comfort of this world and picking up what is His and what He has for us, we step into opportunities in which we see our neighbor and we step into where there's need. We further God's kingdom, and this is the heart of giving alms. And so for the remainder of these 40 days, my prayer is with you. And my prayer is for you to, and for myself also, so that we might develop eyes to see the needs of our neighbor, that we might develop ears so that we may hear their stories and know where there's need. And really my prayer is that we might step out of our comfort zone and into the world of the homes around us, so we might be in relationship with them, so that we might have opportunity to know their story. So for the remainder of these 40 days, my prayer for us is that we might develop eyes to see our neighbor and ears to hear our neighbor as we step outside of our comfort zone and into the homes around us. That we might know our neighbor's story and we might be aware of their needs, so that we might have the boldness to step in what God is already doing and meeting those needs. That we might deny the comforts of the world so that we might receive what God has for us, and sharing that with those around us. So go, be the hands and feet of Jesus as we further the kingdom of God, making crooked paths straight. Peace be with you.